Hey everybody, this video will be to introduce the concept of general shop safety, and I'm going to be demonstrating various tools and features for our shop. So I want to say that first, the requirement for being able to work in the shop is to get at least a 90% on the Part 1 safety test, and you can't work until you get that 90%, and then even then after 90, we'll correct it up to 100%. I'll tell you more about that later. So the very number one and most important rule is to wear safety glasses. These things can come in a variety of shapes and sizes and colors. What you want to make sure is that they have this designation on here that says Z87.1. Not sure if you can see right there. Probably not. Nope. It'll be printed somewhere on the frame of the safety glasses. I'll get a still shot for you for that. And as long as it says Z87.1, it doesn't matter what type of style of safety glasses you got. Here's some other kinds that just different style. They're okay. They're kind of comfy and, you know, whatever. Another style of that. These are not so great. Nose pieces can fall off. You don't want that happening. Again, similar safety glasses, a little bit different style on the side. These are going to keep you safe when stuff comes flying at your eyes. Again, as long as it's got the Z87.1. Now, you guys all know I usually wear glasses, and so when I have my glasses on, I can wear these over my prescription glasses if I want to have those on. My eyesight's not that bad, but sometimes I do want to have my glasses on, so these are over the glasses, safety glasses, or OTG, over the glasses. And again, they have the Z87.1 stamped. You can't see it because it's real small, but it's right here in the upper part of the, let me see if I can get that to focus. You kind of see it barely right there in the upper part of the lens. Then you got some really cool glasses in here. These have some styling, like you know, it's a little bit of a shade, so you can look like a ski racer as you're walking around the shop. I don't like these so much because they darken everything. We also got the super cool guy glasses. These are like popular with all the fabricators, and see them on motorcycle riders. These have a little bit of shade. I feel like I'm a fly now. And then of course, if you want to go back to the 80s and look like a wrestler, you can put these bad boys on. Then nobody knows if you're sleeping or working in metal and you're alive. So first, I'll show you a couple features around the shop. So, fire safety. We have fire extinguishers posted all over the place. That's not a fire extinguisher, that is a fire blanket. That's one of the locations by the front door. If a person is on fire, we would use the blanket on them, never a fire extinguisher. There's one of our locations for fire extinguishers. Let's walk around the shop here. Keep going here. There you see we have another fire blanket in that corner. Fire extinguisher mounted right there. You can see we're coming up on another fire blanket in the back corner. Here's a nice little safety feature, the closed metal container. Closed metal container holds dirty rags. If there are oily rags in here and they were not covered, they could absorb heat to the point where they self-combust. On the side of these big crazy machines, you can also see that we have fire extinguishers mounted on these things, because these things are also a fire or explosion hazard. There you see another fire extinguisher. On the back of this machine here, we have the same thing. Fire extinguisher kind of tucked away in the back there. And I believe we have one in my office. So yeah, I think that's all of them. Normally right here by my office also is this little guy, another one of the closed metal containers. And this fire extinguisher is... So this fire extinguisher is rated ABC. A is for paper fires, B is for liquid fires, and C is for electrical fires. So just in case you don't know how to use one of these things, you will remove the hose from its little clip. You'll will pull firmly on that ring, and then that will be able to push down, and then you aim for the base of the fire. We never, ever, ever use these kind of chemical fire extinguishers on people. And that's because as it burns, this stuff inside, it produces a lot of carbon dioxide to put out the fire. And we don't want to do that to anybody. So like I said, when somebody is caught on fire, if they are, we'll go for the fire blanket. And yet again, this is another closed metal container. Has to be closed so that oxygen can't get to it to support combustion or fire on rags. All right, so another general safety practice is you check yourself for any loose clothing. We never have rings on, we never have bracelets or watches, no necklaces, no super long earrings. If you have long hair, we'll tie that hair back. Just think of entangling anything that's on your body inside of a rotating machine. And we remove any excess, baggage, billowy clothing, whatever. So that way we got all of our kind of stuff tight and nothing's gonna get wrapped up. Yes, includes neckties. So some of you athletes like to wear neckties on certain game days. Anything that could possibly get stuck in a rotating machine, we wanna remove that stuff. That's a no-go. Maintain constant awareness. It's almost like you gotta be paranoid. You're listening, you're looking, you're even feeling. If you're on a machine, sometimes you can feel it starting to get crazy, like something's about to happen that's bad. So constant awareness around you. You do not want to focus completely 100% on your work and just tune everything out. If something's bad happening around you, you want to hear that and be able to respond to it. And so you keep your ears open, your eyes. Again, if you have your hand on a table, you're feeling for vibrations, anything. So you want to be completely aware of what's going on around you. So, last thing I want to say before we get into some tools is just general housekeeping. You don't want to walk away from an area and stay away from an area if it's super duper messy. If there's a lot of mess, a lot of stuff all over the place, things that can roll off a counter, debris or chips or oil or other things on the floor, that's a safety hazard. So we're constantly practicing good housekeeping, picking up a mess, even if it's just partially, just to get it safe enough before we walk away from that area. In some cases, we'll have to set up barriers to keep people from walking into areas. And so you just want to keep everything, like just think of constantly, like what can happen? Always be thinking, what can happen? All right, so let's talk about air safety. This is one of the many air hoses and nozzles that we have floating around the shop. And there is high pressure air in here, and these are not toys. These are specifically for blowing chips out of certain areas on machines. You could use these also to blow water off of welds because we will be quenching our welds in a big quench tank. But these are never, ever, ever to be directed at your friend to freak them out. We don't try to shoot things out of these. We don't use them to blow chips off ourselves because it's so high pressure, it can send chips all up in your eyes, at someone else that they're not expecting, to the side of their safety glasses. You could inject air bubbles into your bloodstream, possibly causing an embolism, brain bubble. You could have something going on in your brain and your heart. You could basically die from an air bubble getting into your skin. If you don't have safety glasses and you get it on the side of your eye, it only takes something like 2 atmospheres of pressure to make your eye pop out of its socket. That'd be ugly. So we treat these things with the utmost respect, and they're only used in very, very specific ways, never, ever, ever for fun or joking around. All right, so we're gonna talk hand tool safety. I wanna show you guys a couple different hammers. So over here on the bench, you can see these hammers I got. Here we have a ball peen hammer. This is for doing peening. Peening is basically creating, like, let's think of like a dish or a bowl. The more I hit metal with this rounded end, it's stretching that metal out and will deform that metal. This is also used to set rivets and stuff like that. Here's your general side of the hammer that you'd use for hitting various objects. You never hit 2 hammers together, even though, like I said, if I had 2 steel hammers, you'd never want to do that because you have hardened steel coming up against hardened steel. And you can chip those steel faces when they are striking each other. And in general, you just only hit things that are supposed to be hit with that hammer when you're working out here in the shop. Here we got a dead blow mallet. These things are cool. They're filled with shot, like little BBs. And so when they hit something, it's like all the BBs are falling, and then the moment they stop, like they're free falling and then they just go whoosh, and they stay there. So the dead blow mallet, you can hit something and it acts like it's dead. It's not going to bounce at all. So I'll demonstrate on the vise over here. I'm just letting this thing drop and there's no bounce. So we would use a dead blow mallet to do exactly put in a certain spot. I could gently tap one part of the vise and kind of get it perfectly lined up like I need it. So that's what the dead blow mallet is for. We never use this for really anything else. It's just for kind of like knocking stuff around. So dead blow mallet, awesome. And once again, the hammer is only used for specific tools that are made to be struck by a hammer, such as chisels. Here's a great example of a chisel. So this is a cold chisel. You can see it's got an edge here. You can actually cut metal with that edge. You can cut through sheet metal. And then we're going to take a close look here at the striking end. That is a striking end that's in good shape. All right, it's got this taper that's going up and a nice flat on top. That's a safe to strike chisel with a steel hammer. So this is good. This is okay right here. Here's an example of a really, really bad chisel. This head is mushroomed, and this is very sketchy because when you hit it with the hammer is going to want to fall off right away and glance off that, and it will hit your hand usually that's holding the tool itself. So whenever you see this condition on the top of a striking tool, we can get rid of that mushroomed head. Bad news right there. Let's talk screwdrivers. So sometimes you need to grab a screwdriver to either remove or install a fastener. And we have a variety of screwdrivers in our tool cabinet. We have a Phillips head, and we have a flathead or standard. And whatever the case, you want to make sure that you have both of your hands on the working side of the screwdriver. What you never want to do is, let's say, I don't know, I had a small object, like just pretend like there was a fastener on here. I would never want to hold the item in my hand and then try to work on it by removing some kind of little small screw that might be on this object. So items that you're using with the screwdriver should never be held in your hand because, right, if I slip off this item, I could stab right through my hand because we put a lot more force here than we think. So if you do have a small item, the proper way to secure that small item is going to be right here in a vise. So we would hold that small item, and now I have both hands free, and I can go ahead and put all the force I want working on this item. So we never will hold that a small item in our hands while we're using a screwdriver. In general, the best way to protect your hands is to use the gloves. So the gloves will not protect you and make you Superman. They're just for general protection if you know you're going to be swinging or using a tool. Nice and protected. So let's talk about using some tools where we need gloves, and we're going to be using a vise to hold. So I'm going to clamp this piece of tubing right here in this vise. You can't really see it so much, but these jaws here are called V jaws. They're meant to hold round items. Over here, this is a serrated straight jaw. This isn't so good for holding round items because the bar will be able to swivel out of that vise pretty easily. So I'm going to open this up, and those V jaws are going to clamp on 4 points coming together like that and hold this thing pretty still, pretty steady. And so what we're going to use is a hacksaw to shorten the length of this pipe. So a couple things with hacksaws. We want to make sure that the blade is installed nice and tight. When you grab it with your fingers, it shouldn't wiggle at all. And you should also see teeth on the blade. If you don't see nice healthy teeth or a bunch of them are missing, that saw is not going to be effective, therefore it's dangerous. So we're going to get rid of the bad blade and put a nice sharp one on. Sharp stuff is always safer than dull stuff. So let's zoom on in here. All right. So I'm just going to cut off a little bit off the end of this pipe right here, this tube. And something that a lot of people don't ever do is they don't oil their hacksaw blades. So I'm going to put a thin layer of oil on this blade, and that's going to keep the blade nice and cool and keep it from doling out too much. So as I was saying, I want to be making complete strokes. I don't want to do little short ones like this. I'm going to start the cut first. I don't want to be doing that because now I'm just using up one small part of the blade. It's going to wear out. So I have two hands on the saw. I'm going to try to use a full stroke. So right there I can tell the blade is a little loose for this hacksaw, I'm going to adjust the blade tension by pulling that back, opening this, and increasing my tension right here. If the blade is too loose, you can break it pretty easily, and the cut won't be so great. Keep going. Notice at the end of that cut, I was doing two things. I was decreasing my stroke, so rather than doing full strokes like this, I started doing smaller strokes. I also was easing up on the pressure. I was using less pressure, so that way when I was done, I didn't like lurch forward or lunge forward like that. That's dangerous, so at the end of the cut, remember, you want to ease up on the pressure and the stroke. All right, here's another concept that will be on the safety test. When we are using wrenches, and there's all kinds of wrenches in the shop, we want to use the right size wrench for the job. You can see this little wrench. This is an adjustable wrench, and it can be open big enough to barely get on that huge bolt. But as you can probably tell, this is not going to do the job. I can't put enough leverage on this wrench. And by the way, if I'm going to be going lefty-loosey, I always have the fixed jaw away from me, just like so. So this wrench would be going that way if I was loosening, or this way if I was tightening. So the solution, if you don't have enough force to get that item to come loose, the solution is not to get a pipe and put it on here to generate more force. The solution is simply to get a bigger wrench. So this is a 12-inch wrench versus a 6-inch wrench. So if I put this on here, I would have no problem loosening this fastener. And I have the leverage. I can hold way back here and loosen that fastener. So bigger wrench instead of trying to apply more force. So check this out. This is kind of a cool thing. So going back to the chisels, I'm going to be using this cold chisel to cut this piece of metal. And you can use chisels for that. It's a normal operation to perform. So I'm going to clamp this piece in the vise. Notice I do have gloves because I'm going to be swinging toward an item that has sharp edges. The chisel, once again, needs to be in good shape. So this one was recently sharpened, and it's got a good sharp edge on there. And of course, the striking end is in good shape as well. You can see that it is not mushroomed. So all you do is you just put the sharp edge of the chisel right next to a fixed surface, such as this vise, and then you start hammering. Almost. And I can tell you that this is definitely an ugly cut, but the point is you can use chisels to cut metal if you have to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the V-jaw to remove that fin that I created when I cut it with the chisel. So that's why the V-jaws are nice. I can hold it just like so. And then I'm going to use a pretty aggressive file, one like this. Pretty aggressive. You can see the big teeth on there. Now with files, they should all have a handle. This handle is secure. I cannot pull this handle off. However, I can unscrew the file to show the tang. The tang is what the handle attaches to. And you can see on the tang, it has like grooves from this handle actually cutting threads into it. On other files, the tang is much sharper. And so that's why you never, ever, ever use a file with no handle. If I was going to use this with a handle, I might hold it like this. That's what a lot of people will do, is hold the end. And as they're filing, the file will usually catch on something. And as it catches, guess where that tang goes? There's a lot of old timers that have scars on their palms. They didn't have a handle on their file. So we're going to put the handle, we're just going to screw that back on, And this is an example of some handwork that happens in metal shop. So maybe a combination of straight and draw filing. So straight filing would look like this. Oh, that's a lovely sound. Straight filing. I could also do what's called draw filing. And if I'm draw filing, they call it that because I'll be drawing this toward myself, pulling it toward myself. Draw filing will give us much smoother results. Straight filing will be removing a lot more metal faster. One last thing, whether I'm carrying around a screwdriver, whether I'm carrying around one of these guys, which is a center punch to mark for location of a hole, or whether I'm carrying one of these guys, which is a scribe for marking metal with the super sharp and scary scribing tip. Here's the other side of that for doing corners and curves like that. I will always carry this pointing down. I never want to walk around the shop with this thing pointing out like this as I'm walking around. If it's the sharp edge is pointing at me, somebody could turn around or I get stabbed. We always carry sharp tools pointing down toward the ground